Welcome back. We're here with Joni from My Better Life Mentor. Joni, thanks for coming on the podcast today. It's been a little bit trying to get it, get it scheduled, but I'm very excited to chat with you. So thank you.
I'm grateful to be here, Easton. Thank you.
Yes. So, what are some practices people can do to find clarity in their life?
Some practices that people can do to find clarity in their life. I would start with a gratitude journal. I would start by writing down what you're grateful for in your life, and things that come to mind might be shelter, clean water, food in the refrigerator or pantry. So just basic, simple necessities. And I think once you focus on the main necessities of living, then everything else is just a bonus, right? So if you're looking for clarity for maybe a direction you're trying to take, um, reflect upon what you've done in the past and how that might assist you in that future endeavor, and that might also bring some clarity. And you
And
get what you
for
and you
people
get.
that are,
I was going to say you get what you look
yeah, yeah,
for. So yeah, and typically
yeah,
when you're writing or journaling, those are the things that are important to you. And oftentimes, unless you, if you take the time to do that, then that brings clarity to your overall mission and purpose in life.
absolutely. And for people that are new to the idea of gratitude, which I feel like there's a lot of people that are, what does being what does being grateful actually do for you?
Absolutely. Well, from a neuroscience standpoint, it actually can help change the neuroplasticity in your mind. So, again, you get what you look for. So, if you start to look for the things you're grateful for, you'll start attracting more of those things in your life and you'll be more appreciative when they do appear. So, if you're not used to gratitude, I like the phrase, an attitude of gratitude, right, will take you through life.
Yeah.
And so, regardless of the situation you're in, the reality that you may be in, if you look at it from a perspective or through the lens of gratitude, you may be able to find some type of purpose in any pain that you may be experiencing.
Yeah. And I feel like on that same note, how much does taking on and fully accepting the responsibilities of life help in being a happy human?
Absolutely. So, probably one of the first really great books I read about ownership is called, it was by Dr. Jocko Willink, and it was called Extreme Ownership.
Yes.
He's an ex AV. Have you read it, Easton? Have you read it?
I've not read it, but I've seen like a lot of his content.
Yeah. So, Jocko is one of those guys that has experienced a lot of life, a lot of death, and he was responsible for some of it, and he took ownership. And I think until you really sit back and take ownership of your own life, you're always going to be a victim. You're always going to blame people for your situation, and you're never going to have that growth that you need. You're never going to have that struggle and progress that you're going to need. Humans um, are designed literally to struggle and to make progress. And that's where we find true happiness.
Yeah.
Um, there's a famous professor at Harvard. His name is Arthur Brooks. He actually teaches a course at Harvard University on the science of happiness. And his wisdom would shock you probably. But if you haven't had the time or didn't know about him, take the time to go research him, Arthur Brooks, and just learn about the science of happiness. It might surprise you.
And one of the other things that you're very passionate about in the work that you do is helping the youth. What do you think we can do as a society to make sure our youth is happier and just growing up like in a better environment?
Absolutely. So, there's youth. It's a tough time in life, right? We've all been there, right? And there's a lot of peer pressure. And I think, especially now with social media, there's just a lot of pressure to fit in and to pretend you're, even if you're not having a glamorous life, to just pretend you are, because that's what everybody else is doing, right? Like, we have access to people all over the world now that we never did. And I think if we can teach our kids that comparison is the thief of joy, like if we sit there and constantly try to compare ourselves to others, we're never going to be innately happy or happy, because it's just not possible. So I think with youth, I personally like to work with the more underserved population because I feel like, I live in a Johnson County. It's one of the richest counties, I think, in the world, in the United States at least. But anyway, I'm around a lot of privileged children, and they are the most unhappy children I've ever met in my life. Like, and I could give some examples, but I won't to protect them. But I grew up very underprivileged, and I put myself through college, and I had to struggle, and I had to work 5 jobs, and I did it. And the kids, I'm finding this generation, they're just a lot of them, at least the ones that I'm around, are not having that struggle. So I want to work with kids that who who want to grow, and maybe have had some struggles, but want to get better.
So, would you say that struggling is a necessary part of being able to grow and strive toward your true purpose?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we've all probably heard of Tony Robbins, right? If we have a pulse and we're an entrepreneur and we're somebody that wants to get better, we've probably heard of Tony Robbins. And you can go back to how he started. He was living in his car, right? He's had struggle, and now he's turned that pain into purpose, obviously, and impacting millions of people all over the world. So I think, depending on how you grow up, you have different struggles. I mean, there are struggles I'm sure I have never even dreamt of having that people have had. Um, but having your cleaning lady cancel on you, that's really not a struggle. So and I feel
Yeah,
bad for those people because they really don't even get it. Like, it's like, okay, or complaining that the cleaning lady didn't put your stuffed animals just right on your bed. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
and that's sad. So I like to work with people. I don't care what their struggles coming from, and I don't obviously want to, not work with the wealthier people. That's totally fine. But those kids that they need help too, and they need perspective. And sometimes kids won't listen to their parents, right? We've all been there. We've all been children, and we've
yeah,
all thought we knew way more than our parents. So I'm happy to really help any kiddo that's just struggling.
yeah. And when you are working with your clients as a life coach, how much is it actually physical versus mental?
Good question. So, everything starts with a thought, right? So we start with maybe any struggles they've had in the past. So a counselor focuses mostly on past trauma. And oftentimes they don't, once you get past that, they just keep revisiting it because they really don't have anything else to talk about. Where a life coach comes in, we take a glimpse of the past, we kind of revisit that, but then we start with present and future and where do we want to go. So, we got to stop the stinking thinking. So if we got some stinking thinking going on, we redirect that, right? We start the gratitude. But I'm also a personal trainer, and I've taught yoga. For 20 years. I even developed a program called Funky Kids Yoga, and I made it fun. The funky, FUN, funky, fun kids yoga. And I made it really
Yeah.
fun. And I had full classes, 20 plus kids in a studio that really only accommodated about 15. So I'm very well rounded, I guess, for a life coach because a lot of life coaches don't know about nutrition. They don't know about physical fitness and how that impacts your brain and your chemistry, your brain chemistry, et cetera. So start in the mind, but then the movement's critical. In fact, I love to even encourage my clients, if they can, to go outside and we can walk and talk. Especially if we're just over the phone, we
Love
can
it.
both be walking, talking, because movement is medicine. In fact, my post today was all about how movement is medicine.
Yeah, I think that's a crucial aspect of just being happy and joyful in general is getting outside, is moving, and is doing those things for sure. Absolutely. So
A,
when Ed,
I was going to
you got
say, so ADD, I used to say it's really AND, attention, mother nature, or nature deficit. It's really that nature deficit that you no longer see a kid with a stick just walking down the street. swinging it around. I mean,
Yeah.
so they're too busy with their phones now when they're walking down the street, right? Or at the bus
Yeah.
stop. I drive by bus stops and all the kids are like this. They're not even making eye contact with each other. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. And to move onto the personal side of things, when you look back at your life, what is the most defining moment that you have?
Probably knowing knowing what to do to stay mentally and physically healthy and then not having the strength to do it anymore because there was a time a couple 3 years ago I'd went through a lot, too many life changes, like too many, and I gave so much to everybody else. I had nothing left to give to myself, to the point where I knew movement was medicine, but I couldn't do it. And that's when, thank God, I had poured so much into other people that that was their turn to pour back into me. But not everybody has that. But I had that, thank God, and it got me through the most hellacious experiences I've ever had in my life. So I'll just say, you don't need a lot of friends. You need one good friend that's always going to be there no matter what, no matter what, no matter what. And if you don't have that, or they just can't help you, because sometimes they can hear you, they can hug you, but they just don't have the words. That's where I come in, because I have experienced so much life I never thought I'd experience in a bad way, but it ended up being a good way now that I can look back. But during the time, I couldn't even believe I was experiencing it, to be honest.
Yeah. 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 No, for sure. I think a lot of those struggles definitely make us into the person that we are. And I think when we take away the bad, we're also taking away the good, which forms us like into the person that we are today.
Right. So when I finally got back on my
So
feet,
I have,
I was going to say about a year ago, I decided to go back and get my life coaching again. And I went through the American Association of Christian Counselors, and they have a university called Light University. So I went ahead and did the mental health coaching again, the life coaching, and then I'm going through the trauma coaching right now.
that's awesome. That, that's exciting. And do you continuously find new things to learn about, like the life coaching industry and just how to, like help your clients?
Yes. So readers are leaders and leaders are readers. So I'm always reading. And I find that books find me. So, for example, I was in Little Rock, Arkansas last weekend at the Rock the Country um, festive. And I had a coaching client that I was not supposed to meet with, but she called me on Friday and needed me to help her. So I was at a little Airbnb and I decided to go outside and walk while we were on the phone. And the neighbor about 5 houses down from this Airbnb had this little white little box, on a little post, and it had books in it. So it's like one of those where you put books in that you want people to read, and then they put
Yeah.
you know what I mean, like a little community bookstore or
Yep.
whatever, but it's free. I opened it up, and of course, two books stood out to me. One was The Light and the Dark, and it's all scripture. It's biblically based about there's just as much light as there is dark and how they collide and blah blah blah. We can't avoid it. And then the other book was Lessons from a Third Grade Dropout, and I'm like, oh my god, this is so perfect. So I'm constantly reading, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to continue to feed my passion, really, because my passion is to help people.
Yeah. And if you could have dinner with two people, one person from the past and one person from the present, who would it be and why?
Probably for the past, Mother Teresa, just because I admire her and what she did while she was here. And then the second person, maybe Tony Robbins, I guess, just because I opened a brick and mortar during COVID, a wellness center, and he was the one that inspired me to do that. Now, was it a good decision? Well, I did make money the first year, even though we were, all wearing masks and scared of each other. I know enough people and worked my ass off networking that I got people in the door and actually made a profit that year. But I probably wouldn't have done it had I not had all of the Tony Robbins stuff going through my brain. More dreams are found in the graveyard than anywhere else, blah, blah, blah. So I really thought my life's purpose was to open a brick and mortar and have cryotherapy and red light therapy and infrared and all this other magical stuff to help people get over COVID. But that really wasn't my purpose, because brick and mortars are great for people that want to just go somewhere 12 hours a day and work their butts off. But I'm more of a person that likes to float around and meet people, other all walks of life, everywhere. And so that brick and mortar didn't serve me very well, but he was the inspiration behind that, and I do admire him.
Well, Joni, those are the questions I have for you. How can people find you, and what is one thing you want to leave people with?
Sure. You can find me at my website. It's mybetterlifementor.com. I'm also on Facebook, My Better Life on Facebook. I'm on Instagram, but I think my Facebook's posting to Instagram. I'm not really sure. I'll figure that out. And then what I want you to really let sink into your bones is that your greatest wealth is your mental and physical health. Namaste.
Awesome. Well, Joni, thanks for coming on the podcast. I appreciate you sharing your time and your knowledge about just your business in general, and just thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Easton. I appreciate you too.